Throw away your conception or stereotypes about digital media. Oh, it's for kids, or it's this, or it's dumb, or it's toxic. Look, all those things can be true in the right context. But LinkedIn's the number one B2B platform for business. People make a ton of money from it. Get your piece of the pie. And if you're not, it's not because it doesn't work, it's because you're not making it work. You don't know exactly the right way to do it or how to uncover it. You can always convince yourself it won't work, but I'm always looking for reasons why it might work. And so if you systemize that, you're giving yourself a chance for it to work. Like, it can work.
Hi, I'm Courtney Harmon, Director of Industry Relations at Crelate. This is the Full Desk Experience's Industry Spotlight Series. Welcome back to another episode of the Full Desk Experience. And I like to think it's the podcast that brings you the best of the best in recruiting. I'm your host, Courtney Harmon, and today we're diving into a conversation about your recruiting business through modern sales, marketing strategies. And I'm so excited to have Clark Wilcox, the founder of The Digital Recruiter, with us. And Clark has helped hundreds of recruiters generate millions of billings by optimizing their LinkedIn presence, creating sustainable marketing engines. So whether you're tired of the transactional grind, or you're looking for scale in your agency, or you want to build more meaningful relationships, this episode is going to be for you. For practical strategies, he's going to give us the tea. Clark, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on here.
Well, thanks, Courtney. I appreciate the introduction, and I might hire you for sales because you explain what we do better than I do. So I appreciate the introduction, and thanks for having me.
It's only fair. You had me on yours, so I have you on mine. Both Ohioans at this rate. So I love it. I obviously know all about your background based on our conversations. So for our listeners that may not know you, tell me about you. I know that you ran a desk in the past. Tell us about your journey, how you got into this industry, and then a little bit more about what your organization does now.
Growing up, I spent the majority of my childhood north of Boston and grew up a diehard Boston sports fan. Patriots, right? Brady and Belichick were my high school days and the beginning of all that. Red Sox games, Red Sox Yankees, breaking the curse. Like, I was obsessed. I was a fanatic. I would go to all the games with my grandmother. Uh, that was like my birthday present. Was like, tickets were a lot cheaper at that time. I didn't want stuff. I just wanted to go to the ball game with her. And like, that's what I looked forward to. And maybe getting like the, Madden 2004 or something like that. Right. But, getting the video game to go with it. But my dream was to become the next Bill Belichick. Like, I was going to work in football and sports and do all that. I was upset. Anyone that knew me or knew about me was like, he's going to work in sports the rest of his life. That's what he's meant to do. I just knew, guys know sports. Like, the guys would come to me for the sports questions. Like, that's how into it I was and obsessed with it. And so I went to college for sport management. Went to UMass Amherst, and I bought a grilled cheese maker and Guitar Hero freshman year, and immediately tanked my GPA. And it was a struggle to get back up. So I was never going to get the best marketing or sales internships because it was pretty competitive in sports. So I had to figure out like another route to get into sports. So my dad was like, what about junior year? I was panicking. He's like, what about the video department? I'm like, yeah, what do they do? I just walked into the video department at UMass. I'm like, you guys need help? And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, come tomorrow. They gave me a camera, and I started filming practices and helping that way. And that's how I that's how I got into sports. And so I turned that into an application, and I applied after my senior year. I started at the United Football League. And this is going to explain why I got into recruiting. I promise. Because I got hired by Dean Blandino. He does like the Fox, official, like he's like the Fox official guy or whatever, right? Fox Sports. $750 a month pay out of college. The food, house, all that paid for. But I got in there, right? I worked, and one of the offensive assistants for one of the teams down in Florida. I drove my car down to Florida. I worked for them. One of the assistants, kind of cool story, was Sean McVay, who's the coach of the Rams now. But he was like just out of college, assistant at that time. All that. So it was like cool. I got to kind of see the professional environment. I was working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. It was nuts. It was a lot of hours and not a lot of pay, right? We're starting to get to the explanation here. I leveraged that, and I found I was kind of doing my sleuthing. How do I get up this job? Because it's a 4-month contract. And I applied. I just emailed 80 video coordinators in the NFL and college. And I found this domain. I bought it for like $60. I got their emails. Like, right, I was doing the original like sort thing, getting contact information back in the day. And about 10 of them got back to me. 10 of them just offered me a free job, right? No, unpaid. Okay, no thanks. I don't want to go to Nebraska or Washington State and work for free. But University of Florida at the time with Tim Tebow, Urban Meyer, their coordinator called me. I was like, hey, I don't have anything now, but call me after the bowl game in January. We're going to have an opening. But so I was first in line, right? Proactive, right? Recruitment, just getting ahead of the game. I called him back in January, right? I was like, wasn't sure what I was going to do. I had this internship, which was cool, but I was like, what's next? And I just got in front of the line. And I think probably about 100 people applied. I was technically underqualified. It said 2 years of experience. I had maybe 6 months, but I kind of, I rounded up in a couple of areas. I'm not gonna lie, but I kind of went for it, and I got the job somehow. Like I almost didn't apply because again, I didn't have a good GPA. It's a school, like all this, like I won't get it, and I just went for it. And I went through it. He hired me. I drove back down to Florida. I worked there for a year and a half. It was an experience that changed my life. I met the people that my friends there, or the reasons I ended up moving to LA, which is where I got into recruiting. But it opened my eyes of like I was legitimate, I was established, I got in the door, I had pathways and potential offers to be the video coordinator at different big schools. That like if I kept going like within a year or two, but there was no money in it. And so when I saw the journey and I saw the people 10 years ahead of me, 20 years ahead of me, I saw their lives. I was like, I don't want that forever. So one of my coworkers had came from LA, UCLA, went back to LA and got me an internship out there in commercial production, being a director's assistant. I was god awful at it. I was terrible at video, but I didn't want to be in sports. So I was like, what am I going to do the rest of my life? So I got into sales. I got a commission only telecom sales job. And I give that story more than the recruiting one because I actually think it's more interesting. People say I fell into recruiting. I couldn't be more spot on with me, but there's the traits that kind of were there that once I got into the door at Aerotech, because it was a year telecom sales, Verizon would mess up an install and take my commission back. No more. That was not happening anymore. So I got my resume on Indeed, called Aerotech, had no idea what they did. I still wasn't really sure what they did until I started working there. But it was a base salary in LA, uncapped commission, sign me up. Right. And so their training was incredible. I did skilled trades like industrial recruiting for 8 months, got my spread to 10K a week in 5 months. Just it made sense. And I felt like everything from the relationship with my grandmother, from telecom sales to being in sports, to how I got the jobs in sports, and kind of like maybe not quite being qualified, but just kind of being able to interact and communicate my way in. And, then the work ethic and just like being out of school and just like working was one of the best things for me because I realized like, oh, I kind of like working and producing value. And then recruiting was just like the fit right away. I knew. So that's the background there. I did that for about 5 years. I got burnt out, big staffing, light industrial. I sold. I learned all the lessons. I was terrible at sales for the first couple of years. Then I got in the up and up. I hit my all-time high. And that day I realized I want to quit. That I didn't want to do this forever. So I quit 2018. That's kind of like the Aerotech journey. I kind of keep going, but I'll stop to take a breath. Um, there. But yeah, that's kind of like the beginning and then the intro of like the through Aerotech days, which ended around 2018.
We've all been there. And do I want to go back to the days running a desk? No. They were amazing and obviously made to us who we are. But it's like you can give your journey so much differently now to help those people be successful. So you went from Aerotech 2018. You said, all right, this is it. Did you go straight into digital recruiter or what was that journey from there to here?
Yeah, I left and I had some good money. I had some good savings going on to kind of like figure out what I want to do. And that's one of the lessons I tell people when starting a business: have a runway. Even if you have a runway, you might fail, which is exactly what happened to me. I joined a bunch of masterminds. I learned a ton. I invested in masterminds. I learned about digital marketing. I learned about online because I was so burnt out from recruiting. But I was working with some of my friends, working with some entrepreneurs, typically around hiring, consulting there, but I was like, kind of trying to pull away from it, but I kept getting pulled back in, right? It's kind of like the mafia, right? I kind of get pulled back into recruiting and people because it's what I knew. And I didn't realize at the time, I realized it more and more how good the foundation of the training was at Aerotech and what my manager poured into me, that whole office poured into me every day doing that, setting the meetings, talking to candidates, growing spread, losing accounts because they moved or they would fall off or we couldn't find the people, like just learning all that, finding the skill sets, getting 85% markups on mechanics or 30% direct hire fees on mechanics. Like it just that whole journey, I didn't realize how much better I got. And like I became like an expert in those 5 years. And it just didn't dawn on me for a few years, to be perfectly frank. I actually kind of had more imposter syndrome because of the big staffing firm and their incentives that they were offering, their carrots I didn't care about. Like, I don't care about going to Cancun and getting at a don't get fired vacation with 2,000 coworkers. Like, it doesn't appeal to me. And then they changed like the commission and all that. So it wasn't cat. I was like, none of this. Again, the people 10 years ahead of me, I was like, I don't want their lives. And that's always kind of what's motivated me in the environment. I'm like, are these people living lives that I want me to live in 10, 20 years? And so that was part of the reason I left. And 2018, 19 was a vision, a journey of kind of searching that and kind of finding, I think trying to find some personal healing at like 30, 31. My parents passed away when I was very young. And so I think there was it gave me the time to just like process all that. And in doing that, I kind of went too much to the like, oh, it's all about me. I got to take care of me first because and that was a bad pendulum. And I made some dumb investments, and my ego got in the way. And if you don't have a schedule in LA, it is trouble. And that's kind of what happened. I just made dumb decisions trying to be a billionaire in a year, but I had like literally nothing. I was just trying to shortcut my way to success, which is a foundation of the why the digital recruiter exists, because I learned the hard way. Like, you just got to show up every day, like the little things. So, because fast forward a year later, I did digital marketing, I learned content writing. I was kind of trying to be a coach. It was working. I was posting on Facebook. I was getting leads. I was like, this works, but I don't really know what my offer is or like how I can really help people on my own. So I kind of shut that down. I did all that. But then a year later, trust the wrong people, all my money's gone. So I'm looking at it in LA. I was like, I don't really afford rent or anything like that here. One of my friends I met through a mastermind lives in Columbus. He visited LA. He's like, come out to Columbus. I visited and I loved it right away. It reminded me of my hometown. Turns out the settlers of the town in Columbus, where I ended up moving to, where it came from my hometown that I grew up in. So it was like a cool connection there. Um, and I was just like, I'm moving here. And everything was a quarter of the cost that it was in LA. And I was able to rebuild and I did some remodeling work, $12 an hour. So driving around job, filming roads for a payment management company at 15 an hour. And then I kind of got my break again in business development, helping a LinkedIn lead generation agency in January 2020. My friend introduced me, and he needed an account manager to manage 15 accounts. They were running their LinkedIn's for them and booking calls and meetings and all that. And I was like, this sounds pretty cool. I can do this remote from my laptop and get paid basically the same base I was making at Aerotech. He's like, yeah. I was like, sign me up. And that opened my eyes to everything. With LinkedIn, I had 100 connections maybe at the time on there. I never used it at Aerotech. And I was just seeing these people's accounts, like coaches, SaaS people, founders, like real estate, lawyers, and people in healthcare. Like, we were killing it for them back in 20. Now there's way too much spam. You can't just automate, and we'll get into that. But it was such an eye opener of what's possible digitally. And so I did that for a couple of years. I was in charge of like a LinkedIn influencers account. So I saw the impact of inbound leads from content. So I was learning automation. I saw content applied in real time with like inbound leads and that messaging filling up. But I also had my Aerotech knowledge. It was kind of just like how did these all mix together? I know they mix. And that's the origins of digital recruiter. It kind of just sat with me. And so a few months in, we fixed I told the owner, I think we can help more recruiting agencies like do this. Like, I know what they need. I know they need clients and candidates. Like, I understand, like, SaaS just needs the clients, but like this interesting nuance with recruiters. He fixed up my profile, he got my outreach going, and I was booking calls right away. People were like, wow, you worked at Aerotech. That's cool. Like, let's chat and all that. And I didn't realize my Aerotech background carried that much weight. So it was kind of like someone showed me, fixed my profile. And it's like people were responding so positively to it. It like opened my eyes to what the power of LinkedIn. And that I was booking all these meetings, and I was trying to figure out how to, sell online and sell our stuff. Like, I figured that out. We started bringing on more clients, but it was just like, whoa, I took all this hard work I'd done offline, all the, cold calls, emails, walking into plants unannounced, like all that good stuff, right? Hand delivering NPC candidates, like all that stuff I did at Aerotech. Now I could leverage that digitally. And that started working. We started bringing on clients. But then I saw like more people were doing automation, and it was harder and harder to just rely on that alone. So I was like, content's the key. It's automation and content. And the owner, is still a good friend today, he did the recruiting background. So he didn't kind of see all the pieces the way I saw them. So I was like, hey, I'm just going to start this business. I'm going to give you commission on like the first 10 clients I sign. It's like a good faith of like, I'm not trying to steal your business or anything like that. And that's what I did. Like, I helped him out. I finished out with some of the engagements there. I built a digital recruiter. my first week was October 2021. The day 3 days before our first group call, I got COVID and I was down and out for the week. So I think if I still have the recording, I look like a ghost trying to run a group call that first week, which was pretty funny. So that was an interesting start. But that's what it was. And the vision was helping recruiters systemize and modernize their top of funnel. And with LinkedIn, can use LinkedIn outreach and content. It's like we do that. It frees up time for you to be closer to the money, get better clients, better candidates, right? All that stuff that we want as recruiters. So yeah, that is the 12-minute story
I love it.
of here, why we're
But
here, yeah, or how we're
it
here,
it really
yeah.
goes to the idea of all of our journeys. There's never a straight line. We always write our journeys in cursive. I joke with my kids. I'm like, it will be cursive, and I'm like, you may not know how to read it since you're a since you're a
Yeah.
baby. You don't know how to do it.
Especially because I've forgotten half the letters in
Yeah.
cursive, so you really can't read my cursive. Uh,
But it's been amazing. So you now are helping other recruiting firms make their journey digital and helping them with inbound leads, correct?
Yeah, it's really systemizing the top of funnel, and what that means is, right? Because how many times the recruiters, what you hear, it's I got to make all these cold calls, right? I got to do my people got to do 200 cold calls a day. We got to do emails, and then, well, most people don't even realize most of the emails aren't getting through to the other side, right? And all that. And that's a whole side job, and you really shouldn't have your producers managing their own email domains. Like you should be outsourcing that. I really believe that. It's not worth the time or headache in this day and age. But it's really systemizing. And what I have found is if you systemize top of funnel, the most effective channel for the majority of recruiters is going to be LinkedIn. It's going to be the most effective, the leanest, the cheapest, the most ROI, the most bang for your buck. And you can kind of just do all the things you need to do as a recruiter. Top of funnel, you can accomplish so many of them on LinkedIn with the right approach and the right strategy. So look, if email worked better, if cold calling worked better first, I would do that. It's more competitive. You're competing internationally now, not locally or nationally, but
Mhm.
internationally. Anyone can sign up for email automation. Anyone can do cold call or auto dialers. So you have to understand the market's response to that and see how they're reacting. How are the people are following social media and the trust, and they're trusting creators more, and not just the videos, and not just about creating info and posting, but they trust and they want people that are authentic and that they're resonating with. And that's just with where this era has gone. It's changed significantly since I've gone into recruitment. But that's people trust people on the internet now, and so I thought, look, I can build that on there because I built that with my clients at Aerotech. I got rated, world class MPS score in light industrial, which means that it's over like 70%. It's a world class. The average in the industry in most years is in the -% for light industrial. So it's like I knew there was something there, but how do I tell people that at scale? Well, I can't do that with cold email. There's just one by one. There's no, unless I build a newsletter, I can't do that in cold call. Hey, I'm the best, right? But I can share stories on my LinkedIn feed of my background, my experience, the wins, the ups, the downs, training recruiters, best practices, interview processes, why job ads are useless, right? Like all the mistakes that companies are making or recruiters are making. I have my own platform on LinkedIn and my audience is there. I always say, fish where the fish are. Right? Don't fish in the desert. Go to the lake, go to the ocean. LinkedIn is the ocean. Then you just got to find which ocean and which type of fish and all that, right? That's the whole find your niche or your competitive advantage. But there's the tools there. There's all that. That's the strategy piece. But that's where it is. And there's so many agencies I've seen that make millions doing nothing on LinkedIn, and they have no idea that their market is there. Oh, it doesn't work for me. No, no, no. It doesn't work. No, it doesn't work for you. You just don't know what to do. That's right. You don't know the landscape. And you've been in the trenches the way I have, and a lot of other people have, just like figure this out. And I've seen hundreds of different accounts and campaigns and content and just like see what works but mostly see what candidates and clients respond to, right? And that evolution is like the systemizing the top of funnel. Like we focus on that. We fix your profile. We fix your content. Create content that sells, not posting for the sake of posting just because you feel like you have to, right? People ask me times I should post. I don't. I hate that number. Focus on quality. If you only got 2 quality posts a week, you're posting twice a week. If you can do 5 things that are good, do 5 things a week, right? Do to what you're capable of that's going to drive quality, right? Well, how do I know what works? Well, work with a coach like myself or someone that knows what's going on, right? Because there is a skill and it can completely transform your business. And to me, you have to tackle the landscape. There's some old school people that don't ever have to tackle it, right? But they already built their book. For the majority of recruiters and the owners I talk to, they want to get the producers up and running, or people who are newer, they want to get up and running. There's no better way to get momentum. It's systemize your top of funnel than LinkedIn LinkedIn, and you can free up time. You can put this stuff on autopilot to get more leads, more revenue. When you have a predictable system that's generating conversations with the people you want to talk to every day, it's a game changer. You can finally have more time to do the things that typically slip through your
And move
fingers.
your business forward and not just doing them for doing them's sake because AI is going to take
Yeah.
a bunch of those. Uh,
Are you busy or productive?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You made a comment, and we've talked a few times, and I wrote this down. You mentioned not making a cold call since 2017. So talk to me, what was the turning point that made you realize that there's a better way to generate business in recruiting? What was that turning point?
Yeah, the first week of the LinkedIn agency I worked for, I was like, "Oh, okay." And then it just, sometimes I'm slow, so it just took a while to formulate the whole thing. But I was like, that was the turning point. And immediately I felt this like this was a couple months before COVID, and then I was remote, and I felt blessed when COVID happened. I was like, wow, I couldn't have been in a better spot with this happen. I'm moved out to 19 acres in Ohio versus my little apartment in Santa Monica. It was like I got to just like think through that year, right? And a lot of other things happened that year. It wasn't just that, but it was this is it, and it's just like this is the way. And I was like, and I just did my research, and the more recruiters I talked to, and it still happens to me every week and every day here right now. It's just like oh my god, people don't know this. Like most people don't get the training that Aerotech gives. Like most people, like majority, like 90% of people don't get that training. And most people didn't get to spend 2 years just running different people's accounts and seeing dozens of LinkedIn accounts the way I have now 100 accounts and just getting that perspective. It's just like right away I saw it. But it was like, how do you communicate that? I think was the bigger challenge of like this is the opportunity because what I've realized people can make a lot of money in recruiting without actually knowing what they're doing. Or kind of having a one trick pony. Nothing wrong with that. Right. I think sometimes if you want to grow, you just have to admit what you are. Just like that was the big thing I had to admit what I was in 2019. I was like, I'm not good enough. I don't work hard enough. I don't demonstrate the value in the way that I need to. And so I had to fix that. And I think answering those questions, the tech is there, the tools are there. You don't need to pay really above even $500 a month in a tech stack to have the success I'm talking about, or that we can get into. Like it's just like admitting like I gotta do it. Like it just have to do it, and you have to just kind of you have to self scout, right? This is Bill Belichick. One of my favorite things with him is like he was always the first thing they did every was self scout. Self scout. It wasn't about worrying about everyone else. It's like what do we have? What are we at? Where are we our strengths and weaknesses? And if you do that, man, the digital age is just like waiting for you to take advantage of it.
You talked about LinkedIn and obviously helping generate millions through billings on LinkedIn. What do you think the most common misconception about LinkedIn that holds recruiting agencies back from being successful?
There's a few. I'm trying to think what the best one is.
Give them all to me.
Uh, yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Okay, give me a couple.
Give a few. Yeah, okay. Oh, I don't post on social media. It's like I don't care. This is business. Like we're trying to grow a business. We're trying to grow an agency. You throw away your conception or stereotypes about digital media. Oh, it's for kids, or it's this, or it's dumb, or it's toxic. Look, all those things can be true in the right context. But LinkedIn's the number one B2B platform for business. People make a ton of money from it. Get your piece of the pie. And if you're not, it's not because it doesn't work, it's because you're not making it work. You don't know exactly the right way to do it or how to uncover it. Now, if you are only placing light industrial and forklift drivers, you might not be getting your candidates from LinkedIn, but I bet you can get some new clients from it, right? Now, can you get it at the same scale as SaaS? Maybe not, but guess what? Everyone's going after SaaS stuff on LinkedIn, but not everyone's targeting light industrial on LinkedIn. So you might not get as many responses, but the ones you do, no one else is hitting them up on there, right? So it's always right. You can always convince yourself it won't work, but I'm always looking for reasons why it might work, right? And so if you systemize that, you're giving yourself a chance for it to work. Like it can work. I've seen people like, oh, you can't find physical therapists on LinkedIn. Why had a client find 15? She placed 15 physical therapists last year from LinkedIn alone. That was close to probably 200,000 in billing, right? And then she got all her clients from LinkedIn content. This is just solo. She's billed 1.1 million in under 3 years. She was like a 100K build when we started working together. So I think about another million of that. So we started working together on everything, systemizing top of funnel, like coach, right? Training on that and then coaching. It's like, it's totally doable, right? But she also works her tail off at the same time. And she gets everything out of the system that she possibly can. And that's my second point is people expect stuff to be set up for them and stuff to happen on autopilot without actually doing the work and getting their hands dirty. That is not recruiting. That is not sales. That will never be recruiting. That will never be sales. The people that will get replaced by AI, the people that aren't actually working or don't understand what their value is. If you're working and you're good and you understand you have that, like you're fine. AI is just going to make you better. It's just going to leverage you up. So that's kind of my second point. I'll stop there for right now and keep going. But
I agree. I just talked to Mark Whitby earlier, and he when we were talking about what's going to be happening in recruiting in the next 3 to 5 years, he's like AI agents. Your virtual assistants will now be managing your AI agents, not doing your busy work for you. And it's just a different world. That I mean, heck, ChatGPT, what it came out 2 years ago, essentially 2 years ago, and we're already at the second iteration of that where it's doing the work for you. It's automatically posting, it's automatically writing, it's automatically finding candidates in your database that matches job orders. The transition already in those 2 years, like it's crazy.
it is. But here's what I'm seeing. I don't think people are talking about
Tell me.
enough. I know they're not because they're so caught up in what AI can
Yeah.
do, and I'm always thinking like, what does it
Yeah.
mean? And
What does it mean for you, Clark?
the well, think about the people around. Think about our environment, our society right now. Like COVID happens, a lot of people feel like they're stuck indoors. I got outside for a walk every day, but like a lot of people trapped. And there's some very real places you couldn't get to. You couldn't get it right. There was restrictions. It was nonsense. It was craziness. And with that, people became online, but now people are way too online. And you have the rates of mental health and all those issues, and all that skyrocket. Like why is that? People crave connection. They need human to human interaction. Connect. We need communities. We need I call tribes. We need that. And so look at way if AI takes your busy work, good. It has more time for me to build relationships, build rapport. Let me focus on that because AI can't do that. Right. And some people are wanting that. And that is what I'm seeing across the board with recruiters, with hiring managers, with candidates. They just want to they want to know they're talking to a person, right? They can understand AI doing some things, but at the end of the day, like, where's the person? Who am I interacting with? And the recruiters that are taking the most advantage of it aren't trying to just be like AI do everything for me, so close business, do all that. When I hear AI outbound call, I'm almost just like I don't even I don't look at the person as a lead or a prospect because their mind is so different. If you have to think that you're going to make 1,000 AI outbound calls, that's it's just a waste of time. People in recruiting want connection. Right. Hey, this isn't working. Can someone come in and diagnose why we can't figure out our hiring? Right. The bad clients are the bad clients, but the great clients, that's what they want. They need a leader. They need a recruiting leader. And you could be 25 years old at AirTech and still be a recruiting leader for those clients. Right. I bash on them at times, and I was one of those. You don't know what you're doing, but you can pick that up quick. Right. There's some great recruiters, big or small companies. Like that's what people want. I think just society actually needs leadership and people to put the phone down and step up and be leaders and just say what needs to be said. And like, if this salary is too low, or if you're stuck by this salary because of price equity or whatever, you need to offer better benefits, or you need to do this. This is what 20 candidates are saying, 200 candidates are saying. I know that because I did outreach to 1,000 of them. Maybe with some automation, right? It can give you better data points
Yeah.
quicker. And I think that's the way to leverage it so you can be better in your actual consultative part of recruiting. And that's what I've seen, and from a candidate side, and from helping different people, like in the feedback the recruiters I work with get from candidates because they've systemized getting them on the phone, and then they have that human interaction. They have way more time for interview prep and follow up and text because they don't have to worry about the roles that they're working on. It's like you're the best recruiter I've ever worked with. This is the most efficient interview process ever. Like you have more time to be better at the job. And if the one people that are recognizing that, I have more time to build a better relationship. How do you do that? You become better. You handle all the logistics, right? You handle all those gaps that like, oh, I missed that as a recruiter. Figure out what you got to systemize so you can clean up, right? It's a whole game of whack-a-mole in recruiting. So you can clean that up your clients, your candidates, when you start getting that response, like, wow, I've never had a recruiter dive this deep on the question, right? I don't worry about an hour intake call because I got my prospecting's happening for me. My content's working for me, right? Like I can spend and be present in that hour. And that is what's resonating. That quote unquote ROI is worth way more than anything else. And it's like you can do that at scale now. And then the people that tap into that and figure that out, it's game set match for them.
It's first identifying what your processes are so you can automate. I was on an American Staffing Association call, and it was with the top leaders and like, what do you want to hear for topics? And AI is already the buzzword that's like, okay, it's just the vehicle to get us to the conversation. Stop using it a way that it's not. I love the realization of that to be like, it was what email was 20 years ago, or it was what LinkedIn was. I don't even know, 10 years, like whatever, 10 years ago. It's just another vehicle to get you to that conversation. Can it make you do it faster? Yes. Can it give you more information? Yes. Can it help you be more consultative? Yes. But it's really no different than many of the vehicles that you use today. It's just a little different.
Absolutely. It's just executive assistants, on steroids, which can be great, right? You still got to work with it. And it's so the people that are doing really well, they're putting a lot of time into it. And it's full time. And you still like you can't just be like, oh, I got ChatGPT and it's gonna fix all my problems, right? Like you still have to work with it. And that's the key. It's still
Yeah.
work. Right. The people that are down to do the work and make moves right now, those are the ones that are winning. Again, I know he's had a lot of success, but I just always laugh at the 4-hour work week. It's just like, why? I'd be bored if I only worked 4 hours in a week, to be perfectly honest. And I think those are the people that are successful, right? I read a Twitter thread or Reddit post from one of the guys that sold Movement, the watches, for 100 million. He's been very open about his journey the last 6-7 years and how he's just felt lost once he sold his company. Right? We need purpose. Humans need purpose, and to just put your life on autopilot to me doesn't work. It will never work. It's never going to be effective. But if AI can help facilitate you living your purpose, sure, that could be happen. But if you rely on it to do everything for you, I think you're not going to have that much fun.
All right, let's pivot slightly. 2024. I don't know about you. I heard it as many people struggled. Now, not everybody struggled, but like 2024, I only heard survive till 25, survive till 25. That's changed, I think, from everybody's like, okay, whether it's the election, whatever, if it's anything else, people have had like okay, pause. Like I see the movement going. It's not like going crazy yet, but I hear a lot of conversations about, okay, how do I grow and scale this year? I need to make up for lost time for last year. So let's think about that and let's talk about the scaling concept. Are you seeing the same thing? And then how do you help agencies maintain a quality service like delivery when their inbound leads start to increase dramatically? This is a different mindset shift than what they've had to probably focus on for the last year to two.
Absolutely. Well, I think last year, and I'm biased because of the program I run, the people that I help. A lot of people had
Yeah,
great years, right? That I
depending on
work
the
with.
industry. Absolutely.
Yeah, no matter the industry, to be perfectly honest. And I know and I'll ruffle some feathers, but a lot of time it's either a skill issue or a foresight issue, to be perfectly honest. And and so if you're having to work twice as hard for the same amount of money, like there was already holes there in the operation. And is there less hiring going on? Is it a tighter squeeze? Absolutely. But that's going to happen. That's cyclical in this industry. That's always going to happen. You should know to prepare for that. You should know to make that happen. I think 2021, 2022, a lot of people got fat and happy with stuff, just free money falling out of the sky, and they weren't admitting it's free money falling out of the sky, and that's not sustainable. So again, it just goes back to, if you're honest with yourself, the people that are honest with themselves did just fine
Yep.
last year, and to be honest with them ahead of time. And so that's what I see. There's no reason to be caught with your pants down in recruiting. Like, we know what this is. It's been around long enough. We know the cycles. We know that all the pieces are there ahead of us. We're talking to candidates and clients every day. We should know exactly what's going on and coming down the pipe, and it's stuff sustainable. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's a little bit of tough love, but I can't just like hug everyone and be like, oh, it's a tough, like, no, we got to fix this stuff. Like, you have to, and this happens to me. I'm guilty of this stuff too. right? But I realized like I have to pivot. I have to stay ahead. It's my responsibility as an owner. It's what it's got to provide. Whether you're an owner or W-2, whatever it is, right? Like you got to be. If I'm just relying on in mails, is that good enough? How many people have bought? You should be asking yourself, how many recruiter seats have as LinkedIn sold this year compared to 5 years ago? How many more people am I competing with? Am I sending in mails and all that stuff? Right? People are like, my messaging, like it was working. It's not. Like, what do you think that is? There's more competition. Have you asked your candidates how many in mails they get? How many recruiters they've worked with? Right? Have you asked your clients how many they worked with agencies before? How many agencies they're currently working with? The amount of time people don't have the answers that stuns me. Right? So it's the number one thing is start asking better questions first to yourself, but then also to your market, because that's going to give you the data and the intel to stay ahead of the game, right? Whether top of funnel, whatever else, that's the first thing I would fix going forward if I felt like I got caught, like last year. Now you asked me about how to actually do systemize and get inbound leads, right?
Yes.
And how to handle
How
the
to
inbound
handle
leads.
it,
So
because not a lot of people are skilled in this area. So I want your advice.
yeah, so there's a couple things that happen. One of the things I often hear and going through the program, we're done a lot of work on this, is I'm not getting results. Right, I hear that, right? It happens 3 years, right? Oh my God, his coaching program, he get results for his clients, right? You can look at testimonials. We got videos. It's all good. We help plenty of people, right? The coaching piece is getting someone to say that. What actually has happened, they actually have no idea how to identify success in outreach and inbound. And that's typically what I see. So there's a couple phases. There's the initial problem. I don't know how to get leads or more candidates. I have no systemized. So we fix the first problem only to create a whole heck of a lot more of much better problems. Right. So it's kind of a couple phases, the digital recruiter process. It's we fix your LinkedIn, what's your foundation? We have to understand that. We have to get on the same page. Are you targeting? I talked to a recruiter yesterday that's, you know, allied, non-allied, nurse, all that in a certain territory, and she can kind of place anything. She's like, "Oh, I don't want to pigeonhole myself." I'm like, "All right, well, what do you like to place?" She's like, "Dialysis." So, and she's like, "Well, actually, you know what? Well, you know what I really don't like to place and work with? Physical therapist." Okay, so let's knock that out. So, like, we are going to pigeonhole you a little bit, right? Like, you don't want physical therapists. So sometimes knowing what you don't want can help you to get what you want, right? We have to fix the foundation. We have to demonstrate that on LinkedIn, what you do, who you do it for, who you've done it for before, right? Why you do it. That's going to be on your headline. It's going to be in your about section, right? Put your wins on the about section. If you're not doing that, it's a huge missed opportunity. I've had people get inbound clients for fees that are $70,000 just from fixing the profile. After they were doing cold calls for 15 years, had never done anything digitally. We fixed the profile, no outreach, no content. A new client found them. Hey, I think you're the recruiter that we've been waiting for. We looked to talk to. Like just from that alone. So we fixed the profile, then we figured out which LinkedIn tool are you using, right? How do we systemize some of that outreach, right? Build the right list. Really, again, who do you want? What clients do you want more of? What candidates do you want more of? And tell your market that. Tell them you want to work with them, right? We have to shift that mindset, get the outreach going, the content. What should I say? Talk about the problems that the people that you want to work with are having and how you solve them, and give them stories, give them behind the scenes, the boring content, the stuff that's obvious to us as recruiters is not obvious to your next great client, right? Because if you look at your past great clients, you made the impossible probably seem
Yeah.
possible to them. That's good content marketing. That's all you got to do. So once you get that in place, it's such a different mindset shift of just like chasing, pitch. Hey, let me know if you're hiring. Let me know if you're hiring. Okay, yeah, I'll keep you in touch. Right, the Heisman, the gatekeeper model. They're never going to follow up with you, right? And I've had to fix that messaging with an owner that does 5 million with 10 people, like on direct hire. Like, and I fixed that for him this month. He booked 5 meetings in a day, just like making it more conversational, like lean into what you're good at. Right. So that's the first thing. It's like we fix that. That's the system. Then you get responses and all that, and a lot of responses. But people go back to their old habits. Okay. But they don't understand is that they have fixed the fundamental issue that we really help fix for recruiting agencies is their framing, their positioning, and we reveal them as an authority in the market. And most recruiters have never been an authority in the first meeting with a client. And that's the biggest shift. And so you get treated differently. But so they'll get a response in the inbox and they'll immediately go and basically gatekeep themselves or end the conversation, which is no. When you fix your framing, you're an authority, you get to now do discovery in the inbox. You don't have to wait for the call for discovery to start. Tell me about this. Okay, you're struggling with hiring this. Like, what's going on? What have you guys tried to fix it? How do you guys currently buy your hire in the inbox? And then you get a couple of those, and then you set the meeting because then both parties are excited for the meeting because that manager is like, I think I found a recruiter that actually knows how to like fix this problem for us. Right. And we might not be hiring it right now, but like I'm going to get a virtual coffee or in person coffee. I'm going to meet with them. Or, hey, we needed help yesterday. Like, let's talk today, get a contract signed. Because like you clearly can diagnose, because what managers are looking for is a recruiter that actually can diagnose their situation and their problem. So many recruiters they've worked with just take the JD, they take the company at the word, the manager at the word, all that stuff, and they go and then they fail. They don't get feedback because the company doesn't know it. But what they're reacting to is this recruiter is just an order taker, but we don't have the right orders. But they're not the ones fixing that process. So they're looking for someone to actually fix the process and tell them the truth. Now, when you do that, is someone going to work with you right then and there? No. You might tell them, hey, we shouldn't be doing this until we shouldn't start this search for 6 months. Let's just keep in touch and do that, right? When you qualify, you figure out urgency, because you've got to figure out the urgency and threats to a company to know, especially if you're contingent, to know if really you have any pricing model, just if you're agency, if it should be a good client right now. So that's kind of how the whole thing comes together.
I love it. And it's honestly something we all get into this transactional concept and we get caught in it. And we've all been there. You've probably been there. I've been there. And it's just how do I dig myself back out of that? And it's a mindset shift for yourself as well as that client that's dealing with you to be like, this is different. I need to explore
Yeah.
this.
Right. You want this is different, not sold. Because what does a signed agreement get you? Even if you get a retainer, 5K up front, great, but you never fill it, you miss out on the whole fee. I've seen people waste a year, 18 months just holding on to that 5K when a contingent recruiter is running circles around them, filling stuff that's actually closing, right? So I don't care about contingent. I don't care about retained. The pricing model does not matter. I will go to my grave believing that, because I've seen it. It's how you qualify business that matters as a recruiter. And do you qualify the urgency and do you qualify the threats? The urgency of filling the role and the threats to you not being the one to fill the role. That's what matters. It's an Aerotech concept. It's so true. It has rung true for the last 12 years, no matter what environment I've been. That's all that matters, is to figure that out at scale, because that's how you save your time, right? The top of funnel will create more opportunities. Your qualifying process will actually dictate your growth and profitability.
You mentioned that inbound leads are better than referrals.
I didn't quite piece this together, like articulate it until recently. Let's talk about the referrals, right? You help a client out, or maybe you have a friend. It's like, oh, that person has a recruiting agency, you should talk to them, right? But there's no like, okay, I'm getting on the phone, like, wait, what do you do, right? What is this? Or yeah, we have a need, or like so and so said you're good. But how many times? I mean, this happened. I learned this in Aerotech. One manager, I would kill it. They would introduce me to someone else, it'd be a nightmare, because like that manager, it's just they didn't get it the way that manager got. So it's so person by person. And a referral right to give them a telephone, they probably didn't give the right context about what you do and all that. Like there can be great referrals. Do not get me wrong. I've had wonderful referrals, but it's a harder close typically than inbound, or inbound, but even people that reach out, because for me, they've read the content. They understand the process, what we talk about, what I'm helping with. And they're like, I feel like you're reading my mind almost. Like I'm ready for you to teach me automation or teach me content or get more leads. I'm like, all right, let's go. Like my job is not to screw that up and overcomplicate it, which honestly I do a lot of the times because I get excited, right? I'm constantly learning and all, because I just get amped up when people are like that. But it's just been so much easier to just like, people are just like, all right, I'm ready. Like, I'm on a call. I'm ready to sign up. Like, let's get to work. I'm like, perfect. That's what I want. Right. And that's my style. Like, I want to just get to work. I think most recruiters are like that, right? Just let's qualify the role. Let's get to work. Let's make it happen. That's what I get with inbound leads. With that content, they're indoctrinated to what I believe, how I operate, what I'm seeing in the market, and they're bought in. And I love that. They're ready to work and they become amazing clients. But sometimes with the referrals, I almost had to start back at zero to like, this is kind of what we do. Or here, like, go learn about us first and then talk to, like, see if you want to talk to me. Right. So it's a completely, and again, that's when you really have the marketing dialed in. It changes. It changes differently. And, I have a sales coach and he's like, outbound's harder than inbound. I'm like, or is outbound? He thinks outbound's easier. I'm like, but you've never really gone inbound the level I've gone inbound at. Like you don't know, and it's not easy. It's not easy because I care about taking people's money or whatever. It's like that person is ready to work, and that is what I love. Like, and day one, they know what they're buying. They're in the door. We're fixing the profile. We're getting outreach going. We're going content. Versus the referrals, like, we automation. Like, what's that? Wait, content marketing. Like, maybe they got referred by someone that did a completely different service. So like, they have to almost be educated on me first. Versus the inbound has already been educated. They're ready to go. Right. And that's probably what I should say at the beginning. But like, that's the difference. Right. If you have to educate a referral, typically you have to educate a referral way more than obviously inbound lead, because by definition, inbound lead is wanting to work with you, like with whatever you've been
It
talking
goes back
about.
to that mindset shift too. Their mindset shift is already there. They're ready to put the pedal to the metal to move the needle. So
Yeah, it's that's where I challenge recruiters, like, start reverse engineer getting clients that can't wait to work with you versus you just chasing anyone that will sign an agreement and give you the time of day. Because life is too short to operate that way. So everything I've done is to reverse engineer that piece of it, because I just want to cut to the chase. I want to get to work and I want to solve some problems. Um, that's nothing allows that to happen better for me than great marketing. And it's just like sharing people. These are problems I like to solve, and I want to solve, and I solve them for people like you. I know, and I get it. Most of the people aren't ever going to work with me. That's okay. I don't need that. That's not sales. I just got to find the right people, the right 100 people, the right 1,000 people. They're like, heck yes, like let's get this done. I'm like, all right, cool, let's do it.
I love it. You obviously you're helping others reach out to the, let's face it, the hiring managers, right? So, what changes have you observed in how hiring managers want to be approached in today's market compared to the traditional recruiting sales model?
Simple, conversational. Don't pitch. Generate conversations at scale, and that's what we do in the digital recruiter, right? We generate relevant business conversations at scale, um, and being you in business. It's possible. It's hard sometimes to figure out. That's what people want. People want a conversation with a human. They don't want to be pitched. They don't want 8 messages in their inbox. Hey, we do this. Hey, we do that. Hey, we help SaaS founders like you. Wait, no, I'm not a SaaS founder, so why are you messaging me? Right? The people are sick of that. I don't need 60 leads in on my calendar every month, because I would lose my mind if I had 60 more calls in a month. Right? I don't want that. Most recruiter people I work with don't want that either. Right? They just want the right calls with the right people at the right time. And so when you think about conversations at scale, you could send out thousands of connection requests in a year. I think I sent out 8,000 last
Yeah.
year, connected to about 30, 40% of those people. That's 3 to 4,000 new connections. Did I have 3 to 4,000 new clients last year? No, I did not. Did I have 3,000 sales calls last year? No, I absolutely did not. But within that, and people I connected with the year before, mm, we had a great year, right? I got the right clients, I had the right calls, had some wins, probably left some things on the table, lost some deals, typical sales year, right? It never felt, I spent maybe 10 minutes a month on my prospecting, maybe. Maybe I spent 3 hours total last year on my top of funnel outreach prospecting. Um, I spent more of that time on content, but even now I can repurpose a lot of my own ideas and content, or I can come up with a good post in about 3 minutes that I know is going to do well and create leads for me. So like, I have it dialed in, because I know what matters is conversations at scale. It gives me more time in the inbox, more time on calls to like really figure out like, where's this person along in the process? Does it make sense for me to help them or not? Right? Or can I point them in the right direction? So and that's, hiring managers want the same thing. And I've seen it with the clients we worked with. It's just letting the conversation breathe, not trying to pitch everything in one message, answer all their questions, not ask all the questions. Just keep one topic at a time, one question at a time. Let it breathe. Don't be obsessed with one prospect, right? You can't have one-itis, right? And get stuck in the friend zone, right? Just have a life of abundance in sales. Like, I'm in construction. My goal is to generate 10, 20 conversations a week with leaders and hiring managers in the industry. And of that, it's my job to have my top 20, to set some meetings, figure out which of those 5 to 10 are going to be account breakers that year and be great clients. But you should be having hundreds of those conversations every year, hundreds of people you should be conversations with every year. And of that, you get your great clients. So it's like, stop chasing the one or two and focus on, I'm talking to a lot of people that I can always follow up with, but I'm engaging with them. I'm not saying, hey, call me if you need help, or we're better than your other agency. It's like, why do you guys currently go about your hiring? Right? Or I saw this open role, like I saw you guys reposted it. Like, who's working on that? Right? Or how do you guys typically, oh, why do we don't use agencies? Oh, why is that a policy? I'm curious. right? And just like play dumb, like conversation, play dumb, just get inquisitive, get curious. Like that's all it is. You'll get all the intel you need to kind of figure out where it's like, wait, I gotta stay on track of these with these
Yeah.
guys. Like that's interesting. Like that's kind of a dumb policy. And I got this client based off that dumb policy. And this is maybe how I can open the door with this one as well, right? Because we all have those experiences. Dude, just trying to figure out what bucket has this company put themselves in. Are they never used agencies, bad experiences? A CFO came in and was like, we got to cut the spend and not ever work with agencies yet ever again. And a year later, what do? Oh, our internal team can't hire anyone because they're not productive. So we actually do need agencies. But it's always getting against cycles. You're trying to figure out what season are they in and do that with the conversational and do that with your approach, get the intel and you'll be able to just work the conversations. That's what the best salespeople do. They're working dozens of conversations at a time with people that are relevant, that could be potential buyers this week, in a month, or in a year.
Well, I think as I've seen over the past few years, I would say the relationship between marketing and recruiting has changed. My question to you is looking ahead, how do you see that relationship between marketing and recruiting evolving? And how can agencies prepare for these changes? Because a lot of them are one off, but now they're getting their own marketing departments, developing their own podcasts, they're doing all these things. How do you see that relationship between marketing and recruiting or marketing and sales in the recruiting industry evolving even further in the future?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the stage I see it at now is recruiters are open to it, but they're hiring people. Oh, I help people on Instagram, or my cousin does TikTok marketing. I'm going to have them post my LinkedIn stuff. And then they're posting all on our company page. Okay, well, do you know that your personal page gets like 3 times as much traction as your company page? Oh, I didn't know that. But I don't want to, what do I post personally? So it's like, right. So they're trying marketing. So that's good. I think a lot of agencies never tried marketing. It was cold call, cold call. So I think they're in the trying stage and they're learning a lot of times what's not working. My dad always told me growing up, do a bunch of jobs so you know what you don't want to do. I think that's what recruiters are going and agencies are dealing with right now. They're learning all the marketing that they don't want to do or it's not effective. I'm kind of there. I can't reach them all right now, but I'm kind of there. It's like, yep, I see the problem. I see the issue. Oh, you're posting hashtags like that's cute, or selfies, or just all about like come work for us, right? The we're hiring. Are you really standing out? Are you having an impact? Like, is it authentic? Is it you? Is it really talk about what the actual impact you're having day to day? Or is it just corporate
Yeah.
speak? And I think culturally, you've been seeing whatever side of the aisle you're on, left, middle, right. Uh, there's been a cultural shift the last few months. You saw it in the election, Trump going on all the podcasts, right? Versus like a completely different model than the traditional way for politicians, right? Again, love him or hate him, it was just different. You can't deny that. But think of that interaction, it humanized them to a certain audience, right? And the polls reflect that. And again, love him or hate him, you got to study it because to be honest, there's no more effective marketer or personal brander than Donald Trump, right? And it's like I'm always looking like, what is it? He talks, and here's the thing in the marketing, right? You can hire the agencies, hire the corporate marketers. That's fine, that's cute, and all that. But what's working? He talks it like in direct response copywriting. There's a thing where like you write at a fifth grade reading level, and so many recruiters struggle with that. When I work with like fifth grade, I got to dumb my. Hey, I work with PhD people and yada yada. I'm like, I don't care. Fifth grade reading level. That's what converts. And if you think about it, that's kind of how he talks, right? Like like people will kind of make fun of like the simplistic way. That's how most people interpret stuff and understand things. And you have to realize that as a reality. So I think what's gonna happen is people are gonna realize that they can actually just be themselves and simplify it and be authentic, right? Love me or hate me, right? This is what I am, and it's gonna bring in the right people versus people don't trust the brand and the corporate speak and the hashtags. Like it's just salesy. It's just like give me what you got, like just raw, authentic, like show me who you are, and then I'll judge if I trust you and I want to work with you or not. The agencies that evolve to that, number one, right now they're killing it. And it's way less stress and way less expensive to produce content like that. And then that's where it's going to be the evolution. It's already happening, but recruiters, again, maybe not, maybe agencies aren't always the quickest. Hand up, I'm first. But like that's where it's going is it's kind of like love me or hate me. And that's how I feel. That's been my approach is I expect most recruiters are not going to like what I talk about because I talk about number one, getting the work done and getting over your fears, right? And doing things and evolving your process. Right? That's not for everyone. But I'm unapologetically that because it helps me and it helps the people I work with, right? And I'm just raw about that. And so when I study what I see to be effective and I look at what's effective, that's what I'm seeing time and time again. It's happening culturally, whether you want to admit it or not, it's happening. So my thing is like, how do I ride that current? Because marketing and sales is like knowing where your market's at. What are they consuming? How are they consuming? How are they making buying decisions? Right. The agencies that are studying that, that's what they're going to find is we need to arm each of our people not to be an influencer, not to go viral, but to be a micro influencer, to impact and to resonate with their next 100 placements every single day. If you think about it that way, if you do that with 100 recruiters, like with 100 people that are bought in, they're going to let you know when they're looking, right? Your 100 top MPC candidates are going to let you know when they're looking and all that. You're putting that in front of your clients, and then your salespeople are getting in front of their market that way. Like, I'm already seeing it. There's some agencies out there that are doing a killer job with it with 15, 20, 30 people that are scaling like crazy. And it's from that. So I don't know. I told you I might go a little rogue. So
That's no, but
but that's the
I
answer.
love exactly
Yeah.
what you said because you're not wrong. People are consuming things different ways, but I think my only as I look at this in the next 3 to 5 years, you and I, whenever you had amazing training at Aerotech, it was like, well, we move this. Here's your response to resistance. Here's how you should answer that. Training going forward and operationally is how to scale this bad boy going forward is really like, okay, here's how your storefront on LinkedIn should look. Here's what you should think about. Here's what you should post. Here's what you should be doing differently. Again, not that you need to be the influencer, but here's our playbook of success. You can't think of this as a one off anymore. This is how do I make my entire team as efficient as possible on this platform and alter this process as it changes as we continue to change overall in our economy.
Yeah, you're spot on. And that's exactly where the digital recruiter is going to. I guess what I'm building it towards is being the one-stop shop for traditional and digital recruiting training, right? From the day one, even before that, like the first 6 weeks, but 6 months in, split desk, full desk, like all the different playbooks at every single stage. I believe calls are amazing. There's nothing wrong with a cold call. I'm not against cold call email. I'm for effectiveness and efficiency. And there's an order of operations is going to change, and that the agencies that are ahead of the game are fixing their order of operations. They're not relying on InMails or just Zoom info, right? That they're relying on that creativity, that structure, but then creativity within structure. People that work hard to get their stuff done, but can be creative and think on their feet and manage the conversation with clients and candidates, but also think strategically and creatively with digital prospecting and marketing and innovative and not afraid to just try things. And people resonate with that. People are resonating more with people that are just trying and willing to make failure and picking themselves up and going on again. Right. I think this like this HR principal culture, thankful or vice principal culture, I think is going away. Thank the heavens. And because every single one of us is flawed and imperfect, but we all deserve, and this is what I felt like I got an opportunity to attain success. And that's the goal of digital recruiters to give people the opportunity to learn the traditional way, learn the digital way, bring out that creativity, build it as a muscle, have you kind of thrive in that structure, in that creativity, and give you the opportunity to take this thing wherever you want to take it to. Right. But all the old, like, oh, this got in the way, that got away. We're going to get rid of all that. And just like, you know what you to do, you know what you're doing, you know how to what your fundamentals are that you have to stick with every day and be consistent, and you know kind of where there is that room for creativity and innovation. Um, it's doable. It's never been more doable to package that all together with AI, internet, all that stuff, like crazy, our phones, right? And that's what's super cool. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg to do that anymore, and that's what's exciting.
I love it. I can't wait to see your continued success. We will put your digital recruiter website as well as the podcast in the show notes for our audience. And I only have one more question for you, and then I'll let you go. I promise. How do you see the recruitment industry evolving over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some trimming of the fat. Number one, just to put it bluntly, but I also think there's gonna be it's like a rising tide, kind of like you got to you got to stay above. But if you raise your standard and raise your standard of excellence and your productivity, the world is your absolute oyster in recruiting. And I think we're going to see more mega agencies because there's only like so many that hit a certain revenue mark. I think that number, I don't know if it'll double or triple, but you're going to see way more agencies doing 20, 50, 100 million. I feel like, but I think overall there's probably going to be less ones making money. There'll be more that are agency and name only, but then you're going to see some like really heavy hitters come up that are going to be digital focused. And that's going to be your next big staffing agencies are going to be ones that they'll probably do it with about a fraction of the people of like the Aerotech and the Robert Halfs, but they'll hit some of those revenue numbers.
It'll be interesting to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, I could be wrong. That's the fun part about predictions.
We'll
Yeah.
revisit this in 3 to 5 years and we'll talk about
Yeah.
it again.
Yeah.
Any last words of advice or anything about the digital recruiter that we didn't talk about you want the audience to know? Because this has been amazing. Just another lens to look through in this ever-changing yet oh so similar world that you and I, whenever we ran desks as well.
Yeah, I do. I know I can be intense, I can be passionate, I can be loud, I can give tough love, I can be kind of say things like, oh man, he really said that. But the biggest thing is as much as you can, I want people to have fun doing the work and have fun. Be grateful that you get to do this. Be present. Be in the moment. Tell your clients that you appreciate them. Tell your candidates that you appreciate them. Vocalize that more. Have fun with it. It's the best part of my life and best part of my family. But I get to have fun. Like I get to be me in business. So if you're not able to get there, find a way to be you in business and have fun with it, along with being productive and getting the results and all that. Life's not all about work, all that stuff. But man, to me, I built all this because like, what if every day I could be so pumped about the clients I get to work with, about people I get to interact with, like you, Courtney, and meet and do fun podcasts like this. That was my vision. That's all I reverse engineered all that with that. How can I be present with my family when I have one, and hopefully, God willing, I build one, which I have, and still be productive, valuable, but enjoy my work and enjoy the clients I work with. And if you reverse engineer that, I'm telling you, it's possible and it's fun, and nothing is more worth it. So that's what I got.
This has been amazing. I appreciate your conversation and your incredible deep dive into talking about transforming the way we approach recruiting, sales, and marketing. And for our listeners, remember you can find Clark on LinkedIn. We'll put his stuff there as well as the Digital Recruiter podcast and website. And you can look forward to looking more about his programs and strategies. Until next time, keep building those meaningful relationships. Don't get lost in the shiny with all the wonderful things, and be true to who you are in this industry and why we really got into it in the first place.
Love it. Thanks, Courtney.